So now let's look at some trigonometry. As a quick refresher, let's go ahead and go through each of the trigonometric functions. So remember that sine of an angle A is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of an angle A is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So as we look at this problem, each of the three different parts of the problem are asking for something in relation to angle A. So I would look at angle A and from there identify what the opposite, the adjacent, and hypotenuse is. The hypotenuse is always the easiest. It's always across the 90-degree angle. Once you've identified that, the adjacent is going to be the side that's touching the angle in question. So this is the adjacent, and the one that's not touching the angle at all is the opposite. Once we have that, now we can fill in the fraction answers fairly quickly. That the sine of A is going to be the opposite, which is 12, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 37. In a minute, we'll go ahead and use the calculator to figure out the decimal approximation, whether this can be reduced as a fraction or not. The cosine was the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. So the adjacent was 35 and the hypotenuse was 37. And for the tangent, the opposite was 12 and the adjacent was 35. So let's go ahead and get our calculator out now. And let's start off by hitting the fraction button and let's type in 12/37. If this simplifies any further as a fraction, when I hit enter, it's going to simplify automatically for me. It doesn't simplify any further, so we're going to just hit the fraction to decimal button right above enter, and we're going to see that this is 0.3243. We can then move on to the cosine, which was 35/37. This also doesn't simplify, so we'll turn it into a decimal, and we'll get 0.9459. And if we go ahead and put in the tangent, which was 12/35, this also doesn't simplify, and this is 0.342. Notice we're going to need to round up to 9, since the fifth decimal is a 5. All right, so now we go ahead and hide our calculator. And I want to point out as a quick check that the sine and the cosine are always going to be less than 1. And if we think about it, that's because we're taking one of the side lengths, either the opposite or the adjacent, and dividing by the hypotenuse, which is always bigger. Hypotenuse is always bigger than either the opposite or the adjacent. So if you get an answer that's larger than 1 for sine or cosine, you know you made a mistake somewhere. Now, tangent can be larger than 1 because it's possible to have an opposite that's bigger than the adjacent. Let's go ahead and look at this second example. Now, for this second example here, it's moving around. There we go. For this second example, I want you to notice that the angle in question this time is angle B. So if we circle angle B, the hypotenuse is still always across the 90-degree angle, and the adjacent is the one that is touching the angle we're using. The opposite's the one that's not touching the angle. So this time when we're talking about the sine, we're going to be looking at 24/25. For the cosine, the adjacent is 7, so this is 7/25. And for the tangent, we're going to get 24 as the opposite and 7 as the adjacent. And so now we can bring our calculator back up. And we can do the same thing as we did on the other example, that we can do the fraction 24/25 and see that that's not going to simplify. Turn that into a decimal as 0.96. Do the same thing with 7/25. Oops, I typed that wrong. So we're going to go ahead and, we'll hit the clear. So I actually didn't hit the down arrow, we can see. So I can arrow back up there and delete those off and go down and hit the 25. And if we turn that into a decimal, it's 0.28. And for the last one, for the tangent, we can look at 24 sevenths. It doesn't simplify as a fraction, but we get 3.428. We'll round up to 6. Now, as we had noted on the previous example, both the sine and the cosine should be less than 1, and they are. But it is okay to get a tangent that's bigger than 1.